Hey everybody, it's Clint Powell, and today's episode is brought to you by two great sponsors. One is my friends at JB Millworks. Jeremy Price and his staff do wonderful work. I'm going to tell you how to get a hold of them first. jbmillworks.com, or you can call them at 706-965-6940. And then I'm going to tell you why. You ready? They have great products. They have doors, they have stair parts, trim work, anything you're wanting for remodel or new construction. But they also have beautiful plantation shutters. Make your house look gorgeous. And high quality, energy saving, gorgeous, beautiful sun-clad windows. I know a little bit about sun-clad windows. I know the owner of the company, Frank Anderson, and I'm telling you right now, if you have a home and you're wanting to get the best of both worlds, high energy savings and yet a beautiful wood look on the interior, it is gorgeous inside and outside wood-clad windows from Sun Windows. jbmillworks.com or 706-965-6940. Also, a sponsor of today's episode is Lori Monteith with Keller Williams, or as she is known on Facebook and Google, Team Monteith. Lori started in the real estate industry back when everybody was getting out of it with the great economic downturn. She made the most of it. She pulled through. She does business the right way. And in a world where there's all these multiple offers, houses are not staying on the market long, you're wanting to move or you're wanting to sell, you need someone who has a track record of getting things done. Find out more about her. Team Monteith is on Facebook. You can also Google Lori Monteith, but you can call them at 315-0042, 423-315-0042, or you can find out more at findchattanoogarealestate.com. Enjoy today's episode. Hey folks, Clint Powell here. This is During the Break. Let's do this. Welcome to During the Break podcast. Thanks for finding us. Do what I always ask you to do. Go rate and review us, share us, especially you iTunes, Apple, cool people. Us Droid folks do the best we can. We do the best we can. If you got an iPhone, you can go to iTunes podcast, rate and review. It helps us grow the podcast. Go back and look at the last 3 or 4 podcasts, wherever you're listening to this one at. I've done a couple with Chastity Snowden, who was ranked 20th in the world last year, went to the CrossFit World Games. She's a friend, but it was a great conversation. I did one with Ginger Terrell and Ashley Young on networking and business. And today I have a repeat offender. Repeat offender. I noticed he just focused on the repeat word, but that's okay.
Right. Not an offender.
Heath Eslinger. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on.
Oh, man, I love it. All right, so do me the favor. Tell everybody what you do.
I don't know. I'm still 41 years old trying to figure it out. I quit my real job, and no, I work full-time with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, traveling the country and really the world. Just got back from the Ukraine doing coaching development and parent education. I started a company.
What's the name of the company?
A Better Way Athletics, where we, again, travel the country and hopefully the world doing parent education and coaching development, going in and giving coaches tools and strategies to better impact their athletes and their parents. And really our ultimate goal is to restore the joy of sport. Like how do we make coaching coaches? That's what we do. Yeah. Coaching coaches and educating parents.
I'll tell you this. We have a mutual friend, Andy Smith with YCAP.
Great guy.
Good guy.
Speaking for him Sunday night. May
Are you
6th.
really?
Yeah. Golden gloves.
He called me, or he texted me. This was months ago after he listened, I guess, to one of our podcasts, and he said, "I'm not sure who has more energy or talks faster, you or Heath Eslinger."
It's a race. It's a race today. Then I'm gonna speed it up a little bit right now.
Yeah, just sit back and enjoy the ride. Wrap your hand twice around the leather strap and let it out of the stall. All right. So since we've talked last, you don't know I'm going to ask this. Did you take a trip?
I took a trip.
Where was
Ukraine?
The trip?
Melitopol, Ukraine.
On purpose?
Kyiv, Ukraine. Yeah, on purpose. With FCA.
Okay.
Doing coaches training over there. You know, the great thing about sport is it's worldwide. Sport will get you in anywhere because we worship it everywhere.
It's a language.
It is.
It's its own language.
It's a universal language.
Yeah.
It is. You know, the beauty of it, too, is that the problems we experience here, they're experiencing there as well. I mean, there's crazy coaches, crazy parents.
I was going to say, you know what the problem is? It's humans.
It's humans.
Us humans getting
that's
our
what I
own
always
way.
say, yeah. And that's why even in the world of athletics and what we do with coaches and parents is don't get so caught up in creating great athletes. Let's make sure we're developing the human. If we develop the human right and athletics are in their path, they'll be okay. If we just focus on developing a great athlete and we don't develop the human, they might get somewhere and not be able to stick around because they just don't have the tools.
Maybe I'm a little nostalgic and old. That's what happens when you get old. Over 50, you're getting very nostalgic, right? back in the day.
You look young. Man.
Absolutely.
You look young. For all you ladies out there, this guy looks good.
Look at these eyes. Allergies have killed me this week.
I cut grass yesterday.
I look like a raccoon.
Yeah.
Like a raccoon on meth is what I look like. But I was going to say, it seemed like back when I was growing up, the coaching to athlete was more of a relationship. And I'm not saying it's not like that today, but I think coaches are in it now because it's a career and it's not as much a calling maybe. I don't know. It just seemed like back in the day, you knew your coaches, they knew your family, they got engaged with you, they were calling you the knucklehead when you failed. There was more accountability. Now it's almost like coaches can go from job to job, just like athletes can go from school to school. Yeah. Do you feel that, or am I just being old?
I do. And I mean, we're living in the information age, so things are changing more rapidly. But I also think we just have, because we live in this comparative age where we're looking at Facebook right now on this TV as we sit here and do
beautiful
this
TV
podcast.
in the new studio.
Yeah, good-looking guy there, Heath Eslinger. Yeah,
whatever.
But I think because we live in this comparative age, that coaches, even at the younger levels, at every level now, we try so hard to be professional, whereas used to we just wanted to be personal. And so when you have an 8-year-old coach that, because he sees all this stuff, because we have access to it, he works so hard to be professional, which really what he needs to do is just be personal. The kid's 8.
Well, and not only that, I will say this from personal experience. When I was coaching my son, who's now 20, and coached my daughter, I've coached both my sons and my daughter up until the age where I realized they were above. That explains their poor performances. No, they were very successful despite me. But a lot of times coaches now, or at least when I was in that group, they're trying to run, like football, for example, they're trying to run these offenses to prove that they have these. And I'm like, man, they are 9.
Yeah.
They are 10 years old. Run the ball, tackle the guy with the ball, and have some fun.
That's it.
I'll give you a great story, and it'll be a good jumping off point.
Okay.
There was a coach, I think Jacob was 8 or 9, a dad, and I knew him, and he had played college ball. Well, I didn't play college ball.
Yeah.
So when he said, hey, do you guys need some help? My answer was, yeah. And you get to have more input than me. Why? Because you've been there and done that. There was another coach who had played high school. They started having these ego headbutts about, I don't think that. And I could never wrap my head around, why in the world do you not have enough humility to step back and go, hey, let's go with the guy. It'd be like me and you coaching him in wrestling.
Yeah.
Clint quit in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And when I say quit, it means I stunk at it.
Yeah.
And so I was asked to go perform in other sports. But I just, the ego gets in dads and moms' way sometimes when we start this coaching journey and we start living it through.
Well, YouTube has also made us think we're all experts. And in a lot of ways we do. We have access to a lot of knowledge. I think it's one of the reasons people say today, like, our youth are less respectful. Well, part of it is they don't need us anymore. Used to, if you needed information, you had to go to an adult or look it up in an encyclopedia. So that Siri 25 years ago was a parent or an authority figure. Well, today, a 12-year-old gets their information the same place we do as quickly as we do. So it creates almost like a lack of need. And when there's a lack of need, there's a lack of respect sometimes. And I think we just overcomplicate it. My girls were playing 2nd and 3rd grade basketball, and they were under the basket, and they kept shooting, kept missing, and you had parents yelling, box out. You had parents yelling, rebound, and I was kind of standing off to the side away from everyone because it just drives me crazy. And I was thinking to myself, why don't someone just yell, grab the ball?
Yeah.
Because no 2nd grade girl understands box out, and my girls probably didn't even know what rebound was. They just want to go to Chick-fil-A. So, we overcomplicate it to almost satisfy our own self.
100%.
And to make us feel good. But again, it's why we're not at A Better Way Athletics. And me personally, I'm not a huge fan of organized sports.
We've talked about this.
At the younger ages.
We've talked about this, and I'm going to get this completely wrong.
Let's do it.
Which is why you're here.
Let's do it.
And then I'll tell you a story about, how we complicate it. So if I'm not mistaken, you believe there's several levels to sports.
Yes.
One is just playing.
Play.
And I think it's good for our listeners because, again, this isn't radio, it's podcast.
Yes.
These are evergreen. People can pick these up anytime they want.
Yes.
I want to talk about these quickly.
Okay.
Play.
Life-giving.
And what age group do you consider play? Because there's stages to get to where you get to competitive.
Honestly, in a perfect world, so sport falls under the umbrella of play. We know play's life-giving. Competition's life-draining. So we don't put the boundaries on play. the kids will. At some point, play will get boring, so kids will look around and put boundaries on it. It's where we came up with the game horse, around the world, all those different things.
Dodgeball.
Yeah, it was bored kids who said, hey, let's put some boundaries on it. When play gets boring, we put boundaries on it. It becomes a game. At some point, a game gets boring. We add the spice of competition. The kids add the spice of competition. Well, what we've done as adults, we've added the spice of competition where they should be playing, and sport has become diseased. It's diseased. You know, parents aren't fighting in the stands because their kids are playing. It's because they think this is the dang World Series.
Yeah.
You know, so again, let's stretch play as long as we can because it's life-giving. It doesn't drain you. Then let's go to games, and then let's go to competition. So I would say 0 to about 7 would be play. 7 to 10, you go into some boundaries. At 10 would be the first time you really enter organized sport. And at 12 is the first time we keep score as adults.
How did you come to this? How did you come to this, though? Is this
just watching how train wrecked the sports world was, and reading and listening and you know, so what we do is we model after a few. So we take and go, well, that guy made it, so let's create our model. But what we don't do is we don't look at the 10,000 who didn't make it. So what I did is said, let's quit looking at the one and let's look at those that don't make it, and then let's find some balance in there.
Because the lessons we learn from sports are supposedly going to be life lessons. It's not just about dribbling the ball. It's how you interact with the people that are on the court with you at the same time. You know, you're disciplined to show up for practice. How do you handle rejection? I've seen in my daughter playing softball over the last 6 or 7 years, and she's, you know, pretty good at it. She started for the high school at third base in 8th grade, and she's been playing. But I've seen parents when the kids aren't playing. I think it's as much a challenge for the parents when their kids play sports, handling the rejection sometimes of being coached. I've watched parents get mad at coaches for coaching.
Oh, well,
don't talk to my kid that way.
Yeah, but here's why. If I give you $10,000 to invest, Clint, and you lose all my money, I'm going to be ticked off.
Yeah.
Because I trusted you with that money. Well, what's happening in the sports world is we're spending all this money, so when we feel rejection, we don't just feel it emotionally, we feel it financially, we feel it from a time standpoint and all these different things. So it really it hurts. We're
invested in it.
Yeah. Why is little Clint not hitting the ball? Because we've been going to lessons 2 days a week. Yeah. Well, maybe it's because little Clint needs glasses. I don't know.
Or maybe
take him to an optometrist.
Or maybe the lessons take another year for little Clint to click in because he's a late bloomer.
Yeah, or maybe he's not that good, and it's okay. He's going to be a doctor.
Clint's going to be great. You stop it, Heath Eslinger. Yeah. I'm going to grow up to be a great athlete.
I think we put so much of our identity in our kids becoming great athletes.
But you know what, though? And we're going to I'm going to move on to something, and we'll stay on sports.
Okay.
But that's not just true with sports.
Oh, it's true academically.
And not only is it academics, it's in the band.
Oh, it's everywhere.
It's at church. We push our kids more now. It used to be when I grew up, my mom and dad would say, go out and play.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
But here's what's nuts. We push our kids more now than ever, but we have more people saying that this is the softest generation. They don't know how to work hard. So ding, ding, ding. Maybe we're doing something wrong.
Here's why. I think, how do we define that, though? I think they're soft in our eyes compared to what we were. And the reason is they don't have a chance to go hard and up. If me and you were the same age, and we're not, but if we were out playing and we were 10 years old and you and I had a problem and you had a problem, guess what?
We settled it.
We settled it.
Yes.
I had to learn how to navigate conflict, how to learn. And as soon as I got cocky, if I'm hanging out with the right dudes, I'm going to get put in place.
Yes. Yes, and it wasn't bullying. It's just the pecking order.
And it's life.
It's okay.
And it's life. And so I didn't run home to mom. I didn't run home to dad. I didn't. And I think we've missed some of that.
But we're so organized now, there's no opportunities for that.
Oh, there's people playing select stuff at 9, 8, 10 years old.
Yeah, but it's so organized. There's always adults involved. And if there's 2 adults there, they're not going to let the kids just fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if there's not adults there, they may just work it out and it'll be okay. So we have infused adults into sports in a way that I think it's unhealthy.
Right.
It's unhealthy. And Tim Elmore talks about abandonment and abundance. There's got to be a balance. You know, you don't want to be completely out of the picture as a parent, but if you're always in the picture, it's just as much
hovering.
Yeah, it's out of control. So there's got to be a balance there where the child gets to. It's like speaking. we don't teach kids to speak. We just put them around language and they figure it out. And if they were around 5 languages, they'd speak 5 languages.
Yeah.
We don't sit them down and go, okay, you need to say this now. They just learn to speak. It's very organic. Well, same is true in the sports world. And that's, we talked about that documentary I watched on my trip over to the Ukraine in search of greatness. And they looked at Wayne Gretzky, Jerry Rice, and Pele, the soccer player. And that's one of the common themes. They even did research on the German World Cup soccer team that won a gold medal. And they looked at the top tier guys and the second and third tier guys. And they researched what was the difference in being number one and the next tier down. And the only thing they could find, the only difference they could find, because all of them were very talented.
Right.
All of them had opportunity. All of them had been coached, in some way, shape, or form. The only difference they could find between the guys who made it and the guys who fell a little bit short was the guys who made it had much more unstructured play as a child.
Wow.
Because here's what happens in unstructured play. And I think we do this academically in learning too. I mean, we're trying to teach kids stuff so early that we're almost like we're screwing them up. But, so in unstructured play, you get to figure out your body. And so Jerry Rice in there talked about, he said, it's not about being fast, it's about economizing movement. And so when you are in unstructured play, you learn to economize. Each of us that sit in this room are all built differently. We're not going to all kick exactly the same way, throw exactly the same way, run exactly the same way, because some of our feet go out, in, our knees are in, or bow-legged, whatever. So what we do is we learn to economize our movement naturally. Well, what's happened in the sports world today, we have access to so much training. We're trying to teach them this perfect methodology so early, and we almost rob them of the chance
to figure it out.
The best way for them to do it.
My daughter is taking batting lessons. She took batting lessons. Mm-hmm. She's not currently, but that's a great example. And what she does, there goes back to so much information. She'll go online and see this girl leans in, this girl, and she'll try to do it. And I finally, it was like, just however it feels good.
Yes.
It feels normal. Now, there's some basics, but you don't even know if they're messing up the basics till you let them figure out if they're doing it.
That's until, can they pick up the, so here's the thing. That's why I believe, and we did a Facebook Live on this, I don't think you should get any sort of private lesson or coaching until you enter high school. Like, no way. I mean, first of all, if you're 8 years old and having to get lessons on how to hit a baseball ain't your thing, dude. You ain't good. All right?
There's some people I know, you don't listen to this.
Yeah, find a new sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not your thing. I mean, if you're having to get your 8-year-old lessons, they're in trouble.
Right.
You're delaying the inevitable. You're spending a lot of money for something that's not going to produce.
Yeah. Well, they could shine in somewhere else.
They could shine. Water will find its path.
Yeah.
Set them free to be great in another area. So as they learn to economize those movements, then at like 14, they've pretty much figured it out. And now you come in and you begin to give tweaks. You just tweak what they're doing.
Right.
Well, what we do is we take a 7-year-old and we try to teach him everything. It's like information overload. And
there goes the fun.
And we just screw it up. That little 7-year-old, I mean, he may be built a certain way. I mean, no baseball player throws it exactly the same. God created us all different.
Yeah.
No wrestler has the exact same stance. No soccer player strikes the ball exactly the same. All right. Now there's fundamentals, but we learn those later after we figured out how to economize our movement.
What else did the documentary? What did it open up to you?
I mean, so much. I mean, really just that unstructured play, the ability to, Wayne Gretzky's dad, when Wayne Gretzky started playing travel hockey at 14, they played this team, and his dad on the way home said, son, I just want you to know, you guys will never beat this team. Never. Your team will never beat them. But there will never be a kid on that team playing the NHL. They are way overcoached. He goes, all they do, they stay in their positions, they're super disciplined, and it looks cool, but they're not allowing those kids to learn. They just do. They're just winning.
Hit the ceiling.
Well, they're just doing what the coach says so they can win a 14-year-old game where you learn through exploration. Whereas Wayne Gretzky was learning in his backyard on a pond, or His dad gave him tennis balls to play hockey with.
Hey, folks, don't forget this episode is brought to you by JB Millworks, jbmillworks.com. You hit something, though, that I think we as dads and moms forget, that at every single level, up until a point, because you were a college athlete, our goal is really to prepare you for the next year, not to win the game. Winning is a happy byproduct. But technically speaking, if you lose and this is going to kill my competitive friends, but if you lose every single game, but every player has gotten better, then that's a winning year.
Here's the thing, though. If every player's getting better, very seldom do you lose every game. Here's the other thing, and this is, I will say this to parents and I'll say it to coaches. Our job is not to prepare them for the next year. Our job is to prepare them for real life, because next year's coming to a close for everyone at some point.
Right.
I mean, some kids, I tell people all the time, like, if your goal is 9-year-old sport, then you better freaking go hard at 8. But if your goal is 9-year-old sport, you're not a parent.
Right.
You're a sport agent.
Oh.
You're not a parent. So if your goal is to be a parent, what I'm doing is I'm preparing them for the biggest season of life they're going to face without me.
Which is everything
Which is
after,
18 on, really.
Yeah.
Really, it's probably 15 on. I mean, they stopped listening to you at about 14 or 15. So how do we get them ready for those days? Sport is just this thing we get to do.
It's a tool.
It's a tool to use for that.
When you coach other coaches, let's talk a little bit specifically about what you do. So you go in someplace and you're coaching coaches.
Yeah.
We've addressed the parent side. Parents, we're morons. We got it.
Yeah. Hey, time out.
Uh-oh.
They're not. Here's what parents
I'm a parent.
are. Yeah, I'm a moron at times.
Yeah.
But here's the issue with parents, and we say this a lot. Chad, that's sitting here with us, will attest to this. We use this on social media a lot. Here's the issue with parents. We believe this lie. Parents believe this lie, that their job is to provide their child with all the best opportunities. And that is not their job. A parent's job is to discern what are the right opportunities.
Because right is failing sometimes.
Right is I don't like the word fail. It's struggling. It's struggling. All right.
I'm old. You're soft.
As long as a kid gets back up, it's not failure.
Yeah, well,
my job as a parent is failure prevention. So you know what I do? I let them struggle.
Right.
You know what? Failure means there's a period.
Okay.
All right. Struggle means there's a continuation.
See, and here's what I believe. I believe that failure is okay to have a period. I think it's okay if you stop writing the book. My theory on it is I've had chapters of my life that come to a close, and there's definitely periods.
Yeah.
The failure comes if the success part of that is if I take that period and
start a new chapter.
If I start,
that's a great point.
That's the way I look at it.
Listen, that might be the most intelligent thing I've ever heard you say. No, I'm just
we
kidding.
should probably stop now. Then
let's stop. Turn the mics off.
I read
you heard it here first. Clint Powell's first intellectual, intelligent statement.
I read it exactly like you wrote it for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. That sounded right. Well, I love it. My issue though is you were saying is your job is to let them struggle, to let them whatever, and I think that's that's a valid point.
Yeah.
Because the world's not going to they're going to give them the cushion.
Listen, man, life never apologizes.
Yeah.
People will apologize sometimes. Sport will apologize sometimes. You get another chance, but life will never apologize.
So we talked about the parent part of it. When you go into these, whether it's teams or whether it's these seminars, what are you talking to coaches about?
I mean, how to get to the heart of the athlete.
And what real quick?
It depends on what
level?
age we're talking to.
Yeah.
I mean, we were in the Ukraine and we were talking to youth coaches and we were talking to the Olympic coach. I mean, those are two different. Yeah, those are two different paradigms that we're dealing with. But what we want is we want these upper level coaches speaking this and saying, you don't have to be doing this from 6 to 10 years old, this hard, this often. All right, you don't have to do it.
How's it being received?
Oh, so good. Because here's what coaches at the upper level are seeing. We're seeing entitled, arrogant, overtrained, overcoached, burnout athletes.
It's like a job by the time they get to high school.
It's not, I mean, they're just over it.
Yeah.
I mean, the primary purpose of sports, joy and wonder, capture their imagination. One of the things in that video, In Search of Greatness, that it talked about was, and I say this all the time, in athletics, the goal is not to find a child who hates losing or loves winning. Listen, 99% of kids hate losing. They cry when they lose. My 7-year-old cries when he loses to his sisters. Most kids love winning. It's a lot more fun. But that is not a differentiating factor because that's so normal and average. The differentiating factor is, and I sit with two people right here that understand this, the differentiating factor is mastery, a pursuit of mastery. Like, I want to master what I'm doing. It could be building, it could be sport, it could be academic. You look at guys who are great academically, they want to master, doctors, they want to master the subject matter. A great athlete wants to master the subject matter. So what happens in our world today is, in coaching and parenting, we take these kids, they're 7 years old, and we try to force mastery on them. We're getting them hitting lessons and pitching lessons and all these different things. Well, you can't force that rage to master. That has to be unleashed inside of them personally. So at 6, we start this journey, and at 13, they're over it. At 13 is when they should be making a decision to master it. So everything prior to then should just be like intro. We're just throwing paint on the wall.
Laying the groundwork.
Yeah. And then they, as a young adolescent, as a young teenager, they will say, you know what? I want to be an elite level soccer player, or I want to be an elite level wrestler. I want to be an elite level. And they begin this rage to master. If a parent is having to master it for them, they ain't making it.
You know, me and my daughter had this conversation. She's starting to get letters of invitation to come to softball camps. And hey, the coach, I get how this works a little bit. But we've talked about it because she's never played select.
Yeah.
And
Good for her.
Every one of
How
her
old
friends,
is she?
She's be 15 next month,
Great.
in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't let any of my I let my son do it 1 year, and it was for baseball. But and it's kind of a parental decision.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's a lot of money. Second of all, you lose your summer. You only have so many summers as a teenager,
child,
as a kid. And but it's I'm not poo-pooing everybody else's. But here's what I've tried to tell her. I've heard enough stories of guys and girls that didn't start playing a sport till they were in 10th grade, 11th grade, senior, and all of a sudden they were great at it. And here's why. If you wait, in my opinion, till they want to do it, they'll squeeze 3 years of learning into a summer because
no doubt. And they can cognitively understand it.
They have the energy that they haven't wasted for years. They'll be like, oh, this is all new to me.
Yeah.
And I want to learn it. And that's what I'm hoping. And she's that way. I'm having to pull her back.
Yeah.
She's like, Dad, I'm like, honey, let's wait. Let's give it some time. But your point is valid and taken well as far as the mastery goes. How do you convince the 9-year-old coach that that's the case? I get the coaches that are at a higher level understand it. How's it being received by the coaches more on the Clint level, the guy that's coaching his 12-year-old?
Well, I mean, all we can do is educate.
But I mean, what's the feedback from them?
The feedback's normally good. I mean,
you get any pushback?
Oh gosh, yeah, 100%. You know, people tell me all the time, oh, well, they'll be behind, or you're making them mess up. Here's the question. And we did a blog on this. It's on our website at betterwayathletics.com. But we did a blog. I wrote a blog on one of the myths of sport. If you don't start early, you'll always be behind. No, if you don't start early, you'll be behind for like a year, and then you'll pass everyone.
If that's what you're supposed to do.
If that's what you want to do. You know what I mean? Because I do a timeline of like from 6 to 10 years old, the information you learn in those 4 years, from 10 to 11, you can learn all that information. So you may have a struggling 10 to 11-year-old year, but then you begin to pass all those people, and you're just more fresh.
Right.
You got more juice in you get more. You get more juice in the tank. You know what I mean? So there's no perfect way to do it. Here's what I do know. The way we are doing it is not working.
You and I had this conversation, I think it was the first podcast, about participation trophies. And we got into it, and you guys can go back and listen to during the break because we have a difference of opinion on participation trophies.
Well, not as much as we think.
You used a ridiculous thing of high school graduation, which is just silly, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
just because you graduated last in your class, you did make an intelligent statement today.
Hey, it worked.
Still got a diploma, though.
Absolutely.
Nice job there. Upward sports here for Clint Powell.
I even
academically.
got through college. Upwards college.
Yeah.
As long as you pay the fee, they give you the diploma.
That's right.
Yes. But we've had those conversations. But when you started this company, did you start the company because you saw the need, or did you start a company because you had coached athletes? Because a lot of people that are listening to this may not realize you coached college wrestling for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that college I believe this, that God had a path for me, and as long as I was pursuing him, he's going to open doors and get me around people. But
you can stop being a good person now if you want to.
Yeah, okay.
The rest of us are like, really, dude?
Yeah.
And God?
Yeah. Hey, but I believe, here's what I believe college athletics did. It exposed me to how unprepared young men and young women were for real life at the highest level of sport.
I guess that's what I was asking.
It was tragic to me.
Yeah.
I was like, so you've been involved in, and then there's some great research out there. We actually did a thing on this that says the longer a kid's in organized sport, the less likely they are to make a good moral decision. And it
really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Moral reasoning study, done from, it was like 1987 to 96 or something. I mean, it's crazy. The fact that athletics are,
you would think it'd be different.
I don't anymore.
Well,
go to an 8-year-old game. No one's honoring their opponent.
But that's why I was asking the question. Yeah. Was it personal experience in the coaching or personal experience as a kid that made you?
No, it definitely wasn't as a kid, because sports were not important in my household. Like, we didn't care. Yet I made it, it was never important. Work ethic, relationship, responsibility were important in my household, which are the keys for making it in the sports world. My brother's a pediatric dentist. It's the keys for making it in the academic world.
An entrepreneur world. Because now that you are partners, right?
Yes.
Well, trust me. And how long have y'all been partners?
6 months, 8 months,
well, yeah. If this goes on for years and years, all this how to handle conflict and how to have good communication, honoring, all that's going to come into play.
No, and that's what we call global and stable attributes. Cross all boundaries, stand the test of time. So that's why, to me, at 7 years old, I don't care if the kid can swing. I want to know, can he be responsible? Can he do what his parents ask him to do? Can he show up when he's supposed to show up?
Is he happy for his teammates?
Yeah. Does he celebrate his teammates? We are, and we want to help parents and coaches know how to teach some of those things. I mean, I really screwed up. I'll tell them myself. I think it was 2 years ago. My daughters were playing volleyball. I was gone to the NCAA tournament, and my daughter called, and I said, "Hey, how'd you do?" And I immediately got ticked at myself, because that was the wrong question to ask, because that question centered around her. So I made a vow. I created a system. When my kids finish any sort of activity, we will ask 3 questions, and they'll be in this order. The first question is, how did the team do? Because this ain't about you, honey. This is about the team.
Right.
Second question is, who played well today on the team? I force them to praise another player. I don't have to teach them to be selfish. I got to teach them to be a good teammate. And then the third question is, hey, how'd you play? I care about her, but she doesn't need to think we care about her above the team. So that's a strategy to prevent me from doing what's best to doing what's right.
And doing what is naturally selfish in our mind. Because when you said that right there, it makes me feel really guilty. I'm starting to think back, though. I don't know if we're ever, the word I pick up on business, because I do seminars for business 3-4 times a month. The word that I use in seminars really applies here, intentional.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
Because when you're saying that, I don't do it, or parents don't do it because they want to teach their kids to be, it's natural.
No.
Hey, how'd you do, sweetheart?
Yeah.
How'd you do, buddy?
Yeah, because you love your kid.
You love your kid, and that's kind of just going through life. But if you start thinking about it, is it good over best?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, if I can really be intentional about how that's a habit a good parent needs to get into. I wish I would do a podcast when my boys were younger. I'd have been a much better coach, much better dad.
And I am still learning, man. I have 4 children, 13 and under, between 7 and 13. I got 3 middle school girls right now. My life is a petri dish.
You're on my prayer
list.
Yeah,
my prayer list. For real.
I told this story the first time you were on, and again, you don't know if you ever heard the other one, but my son was 9 or 10. I was coaching him in football, and me and another buddy took turns. This was my year to be the head coach, right? And the last 2 years, I'm assistant coach. I'm on the sidelines, and I'm coaching him, and my son was a beast when it came to football and wrestling. He just naturally corn-fed, strong. God blessed him, right? So he's usually one of the better players on the field. I'm head coach. Who am I the hardest on?
Your kid.
Absolutely. My buddy who's in the radio business came to see me, big old dude. He came and stood beside me. He had to leave. It was halftime. He said, "Hey, Bubba, I got to leave." I said, "No problem." And I'm focusing on my scheme, right? They're 9-year-olds.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude. Yeah. And he looked at me and goes, "Hey, man, he's a good player." He said, "Don't be that dad." And And I said, all right, man, talk to you later. He left. Well, we eat at Merv's every Friday. We used to.
Yeah.
And I hooked up with him. I'm like, man, what did you say? He goes, you remember the dad that was always hardest on his kid? And everybody knew that he was the hardest on his kid because he was always hardest on his kid. And I went, yeah. He goes, oh. He goes, yeah. We saw it. You're that guy. Yeah. And I'm like, changed it like that. You need to be surrounded by people that will call you out on it. But here's what happened. I went into being a coach as a kid without being intentional. I just was coached the way I was coached.
That's it, man.
And it wasn't that I was doing it and I wasn't horrible. I wasn't abusing. I was just expecting more out of him. Yeah. And I wish some people would have come along with this kind of program when I'd started coaching my kids so I could realize I don't want to be the obstacle to what they could be later. I don't want to quench the fire when they're 9 when they could be on fire when they're 16.
Because no one intentionally does. No one is going, hey, I want to screw this kid up at 8 years old and hope he doesn't play in high school.
No, not at all.
But when we're squeezed and pressure, it'll pull us to do that. So, I mean, even in your case, I mean, probably how many coaches that coached with you ever received any sort of training?
Oh, and I don't take this the wrong way. Just because you played is not training to coach.
No, it's definitely not training.
That's not training.
Yeah.
Just because you played the sport.
Sometimes it's fuel to be an idiot because you think you're a know-it-all.
Yeah. But they didn't have programs like that.
And that's one of the things we want to do. We don't think we have some secret sauce. What we do is we believe we have some boundaries that could help kids stay on the right path for longer so that their lives can end up in a much better place.
It sounds like you hold mirrors up too. You like to the coaches. You're like, hey, this is what you look like. This is what it's kind of supposed to look like from people that have been there and done that. And holding a mirror up to people, if
you see the pimple on your face.
If you've got the guts to look in the mirror, it would change your life.
Yes.
It'll change your life.
Yeah.
And it'll change the lives of the people around you. And that's just true in everything you do. Hey, folks, don't forget, this episode is also brought to you by Team Monteith with Keller Williams. Find ChattanoogaRealEstate.com. So if a coach comes to one of your seminars, is it a one day? Is it a week? Is it camps?
We offer different things. I mean, we our target right now is school systems and high schools. Really that high school, middle school, educationally based athletics. I think we'll move into some of the youth sports and things like that. I mean, but a lot of times we're not good for the youth sport because I don't even know why you guys are playing until you're 10 years old. I mean, I don't know why I'm coaching you up. Yeah. And I even had a lady, I was speaking at Playcorps, and she was talking about, she said, well, my son just has a coach that's not that good. And I was like, well, how old's your son? She said, well, he's 7. I'm like, when did we become so arrogant to think our 7-year-old is worthy of a professional coach? I have a son that's 7. You know what kind of coach he needs? No coach. He just needs opportunity to go outside and act like an idiot. Yeah, that's what he needs. He needs a chaperone.
Yeah.
He needs someone to make sure if he cuts his arm off, we can get him to the hospital quick enough.
So Quit throwing rocks at Johnny. Yeah. Johnny's going to throw rocks back at you.
Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely.
And guess what? You're going to get hit in the head and it's going to hurt. And we're going to have to go get stitches. And I'm not going to be mad Johnny threw a rock at you. I'm going to be mad I'm going to the hospital.
And you'll quit throwing rocks, by the way.
That's it.
Yeah, you'll quit throwing rocks real quick.
It's natural consequences.
Or as a good parent, you may look at it and go, man, he's going to be a good pitcher.
Yeah, I know.
Was that a curve rock he threw?
He's economizing his movement, learning how to skip a rock.
Did you see the leg kick on that?
How did all of us learn to throw sidearm? It was skipping rocks across the pond.
So that's maybe your recruitment. All the dads just gather around while they start wrestling.
So when Chad challenged me to do a Facebook Live on, well, what would be your perfect like sports league? And that was it.
Yeah.
From birth to 10, it's because we know today the world's not as safe and whatever. I mean, I do think we need to be careful, but I think sometimes we worry too much. But from 0 to 10, let's organize times, but let's unorganize the play. So if your kid don't have a neighborhood or opportunity, then let's organize a place to go, and then let's be quiet and let them play.
Right.
My son, we were at a volleyball tournament this weekend at the World Congress Center for my older daughters. I look over, my son is playing tackle football in the World Congress Center with about 10 other boys. Well, all the kids left, and there was him and one other kid left, a 7-year-old kid, same age as him. For 30 straight minutes, they played tackle football on the carpet, made up their own rules, organized the game, created the boundaries, and played for 30 minutes, never got in an argument.
They were doing Oklahoma drills.
That's what they were doing. I'll show you I'll show you the video in a minute. They were learning how to tackle, learning how to play, became best buddies in 30 minutes. It cost me zero money, zero time, zero energy, and they had an absolute crowd around them fascinated going, look at these kids.
I tell people all the time, I don't think kids play, call your own foul basketball enough. When I grew up, we used to call, you had to figure that out.
Yeah.
That's a foul.
Yeah.
I didn't foul you.
Yeah.
You better figure that one out real quick.
Well, I was talking to a college basketball coach yesterday, and he was talking about his son, and he was like, I'm trying to just get him to go to the goal more, like take the risk. And I said, the issue is we tell them to take the risk, but they're always in a pressure setting. When fear and anxiety are increased, performance and learning are decreased.
Yeah.
So the great thing about playing pickup basketball, there's not a bunch of people in the stands. You're not getting graded. You're not going to lose your starting job. So you know what you'll do? You'll go to the hole and try to dunk it. What teaches kids, almost like street ball, teaches them to be more aggressive because there's less at stake.
Though, as parents, as you start looking at it, I think and we talked about how parents are not doing anything on purpose. We are, at my age now, I'm 51 years old. When you start looking back, you see all the things that you missed. Mm-hmm. You start thinking, man, and you start looking at your kids going, I really don't want them to miss things. And so we unintentionally create a world that probably creates it where they miss things. Mm-hmm. And we just we do it out of this love, but it's a love, I think, sometimes that's misplaced. It's more of a love looking at our past and not their future.
Well, the J.D. Greer says it best. He's a pastor of the Summit Church over in North Carolina. This guy's awesome. And I listened to a sermon of his, and he talked about how kids today are experience rich, but relationally poor.
That's awesome.
So what we have to be careful of is that our kids have all these experiences, but do they have a meaningful relationship?
It kind of goes back to what we started talking about.
That's exactly
the relationship
it.
with the coach.
That's it. So coaches, even I was telling this college basketball coach yesterday, I was like, my first overnight trip for sport was in high school. Nowadays, these kids, so they don't even look forward to it in high school because they've done it so much as a kid. So they get bored with it because they've done it.
And they're sponsored. There's 12-year-old teams now that are sponsored athletes.
Listen, it is out of control.
When you go to the school systems, let's finish this up with a couple of minutes talking specifically about what you're doing as a company. Okay. So when you go to the school systems, what do you offer them? What are the goals and objectives, and how would a school system know that they're ready for somebody like you, what you guys do?
Well, it's not if they're ready, it's if they recognize the need. Have they looked in the mirror?
Okay.
And most school systems have. Most of the time when we go in and we begin to talk about what we do, we're going to Woodward Academy the 23rd and 24th of May. The AD just puts his head in his hands and goes, stop talking, just tell me what it's going to cost and when can we get you here? Because they understand there's a prescription needed because there's a problem.
Right.
So we go in, we offer a 3-hour training, we offer a 1-day training, we offer a 2-day training, we offer a 2-day training with a 10-month consultation where we go in and we help them set up their mission, their core values. A lot of times they're operating blindly. They're not unintentionally being bad coaches or a bad athletic department. They just have no foundation of what they're basing things on. And if the only thing we're measuring is touchdowns and 3-point shots, well, we can't get mad when a kid doesn't get that opportunity because that's the only thing we measure. So how do we measure more? How do we move from outcomes to what do we call success?
Right.
Retention. How many kids do we have on a football team? I believe every school, there should be, for their football coach, if you believe athletics really does change a kid's life, then if your football coach only has 30 kids on the team and you're a high school of 2,000 people, then that needs to be addressed. There needs to be 75 kids on that team. We need to be raising money to buy new uniforms because we believe sports is going to change this kid's life. So we go in and help them set up that. We have a model we walk through called the core model of every interaction, whether it be verbal or nonverbal, of connecting with kids, of encouraging kids, celebrating kids.
Do you help go down as far as in the meat of it as structure of practices?
A little bit.
Okay.
We don't talk about X's and O's.
Okay.
Because you don't win with X's and O's.
Right.
You win with the things outside of if a kid's connected, it's really easy to teach him the X's and O's
because they want to. They're motivated.
Well, yeah, and they're connected. You know what I mean?
How do people find out about you?
They can go to abetterwayathletics.com. They can follow us on Instagram, Twitter. They can go to Facebook and follow us. They can follow me personally, and that will lead them there. But
maybe, just maybe, there may be a podcast in the future.
We're hoping it's going to happen soon.
That's going to be very cool.
So, Restore the Joy podcast.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. This is, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news. Heath
Restore the Joy podcast.
Restore the Joy podcast. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
What's it going to be about?
Just parenting and coaching in sport.
Like what we've been talking about.
How do we restore the joy of sport for the parent, coach, and athlete? This is intended to be fun. Why is it so miserable?
Yeah, and if you're a parent listening to this, I challenge you, if you hear any of this and you kind of go, I relate to a little bit, ask yourself the question, not more importantly, but outside of does my kid have fun, are you enjoying it? Most of the time, if the world is what Heath just described, the parent maybe is not enjoying it either.
Dude, this is supposed to be fun.
You're not looking forward to the third trip to Florida this Saturday.
Yeah,
when it's going to cost you $500. So you're 9-year-old.
Take a vacation.
Yes.
Take a vacation,
or just tell your kid what I used to do: go outside. It's sun's up.
That's it.
My dad used to say this to me all the time: you can go find something to do, or I'll find you something to do. Your something to do is going to be way more fun than my something to do.
Some of the greatest creativity comes out of boredom. There's last thing. There's 1968 Olympic gold medalist in the high jump. This was in that In Search of Greatness.
Okay.
His name was Dick Fosbury. All right, Dick Fosbury was the first guy to ever go over the high jump bar backwards. Like we call it the Fosbury flop.
Okay.
Well, Dick Fosbury's out in his yard and training for the high jump for the Olympics. I mean, he's obviously pretty good and realizes like I can go over at a much higher place if I do it this way. Well, everyone said he was crazy. Like, you're going to jump over it backwards? Like, you're out of your mind.
Right.
Well, how does every high jumper jump today?
Backwards.
So he discovered that by just going out and doing, economizing the movement. Well, then science got involved, and they said, hey, this makes a lot of sense. We would be amazed at what our children could create and do if we would just shut our mouths and get out of the way.
I can't picture a better way to end the podcast than that right there.
Love it.
Tell everybody your website one more time.
BetterWayAthletics.com. Follow us on Instagram at BetterWayAthletics, Twitter, Facebook. We are grateful. I am so fortunate to work for an organization like Fellowship of Christian Athletes that lets me do these things and to be a part of starting a company that we really believe can restore the joy of sport for parent, coach, and athlete.
We're looking forward to your podcast. Go check him out and be sure to catch up on all the podcasts here at DuringTheBreakPodcast.com. Thank you, dude. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Hey, talk to you later. Thanks for listening to During the Break. If you like this episode, share it with your friends. If you have a few minutes, please rate and review the podcast on iTunes to help us reach a larger audience. Also, like our Facebook page and check out our website, DuringTheBreakPodcast.com. If I haven't asked too much already, join us again next time on During the Break.